Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Daily Money Markets. You are actually with me, the host. It's Yusuf. We again back on this platform just to share a little bit of information about the market and how's the market actually performing at this particular time. So we are going to start to look into one of the major events that has been happening for this week, starting from Monday, and how actually has impacted the market itself in terms of the stock market and as well as in terms of the forex market, which is the CFD market. So a couple of things has been happening in the market this week. Of course, we didn't see a lot of volatility from the beginning of Monday, but coming on Tuesday, we saw a lot of instrument having a very, very huge volatility, pushing the price all the way, up, and which is it was very, very impressive to those guys that are actually in the market and actually, trading. So Monday, the high impact news that there was in the market that actually people use it to trade, there was a Federal Reserve Bank having actually the report that they were releasing, on Monday. So the level of diffusion index based on surveyed manufacturers in the New York City state. So the actual it was actually greater than the focus. So when you see the news, that gives you the idea what is the actual and the focus. So it actually gives you the point where to say that we are expecting the news release to have this type of impact, but the focus is on going on this. So you can estimate, sort of like estimating to say that when the news report come out, it will be this percentage of growth of the market, or it will impact this percentage loss of the market, and then vice versa to the actual report that comes with. So that was Monday. We saw again on Tuesday there was another a big news. I think on Monday it was actually impacting instrument like US dollar indexes, gold and stocks. So those are the big instrument that are actually having an impact on Monday. If you were in the market and if you were trading those type of instrument, you could have seen how much volatility it had on Monday. So on Tuesday, which is yesterday, there was also the Office for National Statistics also had to release, the report. So this report of the Office of National Statistics is actually dealing with the change in the number of people claiming for unemployment-related benefits during the previous month. So how many people they actually claim unemployment benefits from that statistic bureau. What does it help us? It does help us in terms of to understand how many people they are actually unemployed and they are claiming. It's like here locally, how many people they are actually claiming 350 rand so that they can be able, to help themselves. That statistics gives you the idea of how many actually people that are unemployed at particular time and that are actually active trying to look for the employment. So it gives you also the same thing actual and the focus. It always released on monthly about the 16 days after the month end. So after month end, 16 days after that, that bureau actually released the statistics. So it was a news based on Britain, which is the GBP instrument. We're having a little bit of a volatility, and we're looking for also German 30, which is one of the major stock or major indices, that has a lot of companies listed on that index itself. So also that instrument we saw it has a little bit of volatility on Monday. If I'm checking it on the market at particular time for this German 30 instrument, let me just quickly check it on the chart. So it's moving. But on Monday, it actually closed at $15,877. So that's what it closed on Monday. It actually failed to break this level to go all the way down, but it picked up a little bit, goes to $15,986 per share price of German 30. Currently, it's moving around 15,931. That's what actually, from Tuesday up to today, which is Wednesday, and that's how it actually impacted the global market. So, moving on to today, which is we're sitting on Wednesday. There was also on Tuesday couple of news that comes in that actually also give a little bit of movement of the market. We had a Canadian dollar having the CPI news that actually give you the change in the price of goods and service purchased by consumers in Canada, and that was released on Tuesday again yesterday. So those who were busy trading Canadian dollar, they actually have some very 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 beautiful volatility movement that can benefit to them when they are trading. So the instrument that we're looking at on Tuesday, it was Canadian dollar versus United States dollar. We also seen in the US Consumer Bureau releasing the retail sales, which is actually change in the total value of the sales at the retail level. So it actually gives you the idea how much people they're actually participating in a retail level. So we were also looking at a instrument like a US index, US 30, Nasdaq, US stocks, and gold and all other instruments that are actually correlated to the dollar, because it is actually a dollar news. So today, Wednesday, May the 17th, around 3:30, we actually expecting a news from Australia Bureau of Statistics. It's called the Wage Price Index. So the wage price index is actually coming today. Those that they actually wanted to trade today on the 17th, they can look up to Australian dollar, Australian versus New Zealand dollar, Australian versus Swiss franc dollar. This report, it actually gives the idea of the change in a price business and the government pay for the labor, excluding the bonuses. So how much government have paid to price businesses, and the government pay for a labor to excluding the bonuses. So as I said, the Australian dollar is going to be a little bit of affected today. When you say affected, we're not saying you cannot trade or you cannot participate in that Australian dollar. But what we actually saying is that it will have a high impact of volatility, which is good for the traders who trade in a global market, because what it does is you can actually make a better amount of returns when the market has that type of volatility. So that's actually is happening today. But the trend doesn't stop there. We're actually moving on all the way. Okay, even today, also later on, in terms of British pounds, we are having the Bank of England, the governor, Berry, is actually speaking. So most of the time, these governors of the bank, whether US bank, Canadian bank, when they're actually, speaking, most of the, instrument or investors, they actually, put some money, others pull up money. So we'll see a little bit of or most of volatility in terms of, different type of instrument. So we're seeing the Bank of England today. His name is Andrew Billy. It's actually hawkish than expected. Is good. Uh, Bank of England governor on March 2020 to 2028, volatility is often experienced during his speech as a traders attempt to decide interest rates cruise. So this is where they're actually going to speak how much they're actually thinking to increase the next month in terms of interest rate. So there will be very, very high impact of volatility of euros. If those who are trading Euro USD or any instrument correlated or quoted by Euro, you can be able to make some good profit from there. So tomorrow will be Thursday the 18th. We are actually expecting the news to be released about the Australian Bureau of Statistics. It will be employment change in Australia. So if you're in the market, you can be able to look up to Australian dollar versus whatever Canadian dollar, United States dollar. Look at those type of instruments. Tomorrow it actually gives us the change in numbers of employed people during the previous month. So it tells us how many people they've been employed on Australia, and that gives us the picture to say that okay, the economy is moving good or is not moving good based on how many people they are actually employed and how many people they are paying taxes to that specific country. So the instrument to look up to that will have a higher impact volatility is Australian dollar, maybe Australian versus Canadian dollar. The last one in the market week, which will be Friday on the 19th, will actually look up to United States, the Federal Reserve Chair Powell is actually speaking. So this is a news coming from the Federal Reserve of the United States. The Federal Chair, Fed's 2018 to 2026. The governor, May 2012, June 2018. So the governor was starting from, I think, 2012 all the way up to 2018. So during those time, there's a high impact of volatility to all instruments and all stocks of the United States. So these are very, 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 trust me, high impact news that if you can be able to focus on it and look at the specific instrument of these news, you end up actually, cut the volatility and eventually start actually making a very, very a good profit for ourselves. So uh, we're gonna have to. Those were actually the high impact news that you find it in a forex market, on the stock market, on or whatever maybe trading market that you can actually use to trade. Couple of news that they are coming that we want to look up to. As we always say, that we want to add up a little bit of how actually the economy in Africa is moving. And recently, I've seen the news coming from Zimbabwe in terms of I think it was last week. The IMF giving them agreement to go ahead of using gold as a backup of their currency. And today I'm actually seeing Zimbabwe devalues its dollar to try stabilize the currencies. So they are trying to devaluing the Zim dollar so that they can be able to stabilize the economy of Zim. So in terms of Zim, I think the talk in terms of the economy in Zim, it's actually continuing up to now. But we have seen a very, very terrible thing happening in Sudan, where a lot of people they are bombing conflict in Sudan, making Africa or part of the Africa to be very, very unstable, and which is not good for the continent or for the global players when they're looking at us here down there. So African Central Bank poisoning to hold the rates as inflation soften up. So the African Central Bank, they're going to be able maybe to hold the rates. I think we're looking at 25 basis points again released from the Africa Central Bank to see how actually it's going to stabilize the whole entire countries in Africa, including the major countries in terms of economy and emerging countries in terms of also economy. Ethiopia begins fundraising for the first ever security exchange. Couple of things happening in Ethiopia there, but I didn't go through, just to see what exactly they're talking about. They say we saw also plays. Kenya plans for bond sales to cover unpaid fuel subscribed. So the time where there was a COVID-19, most of the countries in Africa they decided to cut the the subsides of fuel. So we saw countries like Lesotho cutting down for that subside. But what happened is whenever you are cutting subside for any product that brings a little bit of money to the government, that means the government is running on shortfall, right? Then you need to find a different way or different measures that you can be able to bring that money back to the system so that the government can continue providing the service. So what happened in Kenya, it happened the same thing towards the COVID-19 and towards the time when the COVID-19 was actually moving on from 2019, 2020 to 2022, they decided to actually, to subside for fuel. So right now, they're actually, planning to sell the government bonds to cover up the fuel subscribed. So when it comes to the government bond, very, very interesting, topic. One day we're gonna go through it just to so that you can understand. But pretty much it's simple. Most of people, we buy bonds, whether we're buying from the government, we work from the government. That paper is being held by the government because you're working in a government. If you buy it via the bank, that paper is actually held by the bank because you take the money from the bank. What they do, they take that paper, sell it to a different investors, the investors that have maybe a lot of liquidity. So they already cash up their cash, right? You're paying the bank, but pretty much you are actually paying the guys that actually give the liquidity. So same as the government, sometimes the government hoard the bonds. When they hoard the bonds, the more you're hoarding, the value of the bond now it will start increasing. So now the time you decided to sell those bonds, you'll be able to sell maybe in a higher price. So that's actually what it's cooking in terms of Kenya, in terms of the Africa report at the moment. Let me just check a couple of few news if we what we can look up to in terms of the global markets. All right. All right. So the last one is just how the stock market actually, has been, going on. Stocks mixed as U.S. debt talks keep traders on edge. So the debt that the U.S. have, they are in talks of this debt, and it actually gives a little bit of instability when it comes to U.S. Stocks. But I did so some couple of news of Silicon Valley Bank, just to follow up on what we've been talking for past weeks. So the senators of United States, they were actually blaming the Silicon Valley Bank and the signature management for banks' failure. So now all the senators from different areas in US, they said, no, man, you guys, the guys that you are running, these banks, you didn't run it correctly. I think the blame is coming from you. So we're going to follow up about that story also to hear what will be the impact if they really find that the guys who were running the whole show, the whole Silicon Bank or Signature Bank, what will happen? That's what we're going to follow up just to come and report again to everyone. Lastly, I just want to say, I was attending the very, very nice events last week. It's called Famous 2023, the Africa Famous. It was in Santi Nelson Mandela Square in South Africa. Very, very interesting people that we saw there, different types of brokers for all over, overseas, here locally in Africa. Great ideas from different type of people here in Africa. So it was nice, and thank you very much, Famous, for coming to to South Africa. Yes, thanks a lot for tuning in, and let's keep watching the Daily Money Markets. Keep subscribing, keep pushing. We good.